Maya lived in a small, colorful town called Willow Creek. Maya loved colors. She loved the way the morning sun turned the sky into a soft peach orange, like a fresh fruit waiting to be picked. She loved the deep, mysterious green of the forest after a heavy rain, when the leaves looked like polished emeralds. But most of all, Maya loved to paint. To her, a brush was not just a tool, it was a magic wand that could bring her imagination to life. However, there was a secret in Willow Creek. No one in the town had ever seen a Maya painting. Not her friends, not her neighbors, and not even her parents. In her house, Maya had a small attic room with a single window that looked out over the rooftops. This was her studio. It was filled with the smell of turpentine and linseed oil. It was crowded with jars of brushes, tubes of expensive paint, and dozens of canvases. But if you looked at the canvases, most of them were turned against the wall. They were hidden in the shadows, like shameful secrets. Maya was a perfectionist. To Maya, art was a test of worth. A painting was either perfect, a masterpiece that belonged in a museum, or it was trash. There was no middle ground, no room for good enough. She believed that if she couldn't get it right on the first try, she simply didn't have the gift. Every night, Maya would sit down with a fresh white canvas. The bright white fabric felt like a challenge, staring at her, waiting for her to fail. She would have a beautiful, glowing idea in her head, a forest of silver trees sparkling under a blue moon, or a bird with wings made of swirling fire. But as soon as her brush touched the fabric, her heart would start to beat fast against her ribs. What if the line is not perfectly straight? She whispered to herself, her hand trembling. What if I pick a blue that is too dark and ruins the light? What if it looks ugly and everyone sees that I am a fraud? One night, she was painting a portrait of her cat, Leo. She spent 3 long hours on the eyes, making sure they looked like liquid gold. They were the best eyes she had ever painted. But then, as she reached for a rag, her hand slipped. A small, heavy drop of thick black paint fell right on the cat's delicate pink nose. Maya froze. The silence in the room felt heavy. Her eyes filled with hot tears. She didn't see a small spot that could be fixed. She saw a disaster that proved she was a failure. Ruined, she sighed, her voice breaking. It is a failure. I am a failure. A real artist wouldn't slip. A real artist wouldn't make such a stupid mistake. She took the canvas and threw it into the dark corner with the others, face down. She sat in the dark, feeling a cold weight in her chest. She was so afraid to make a mistake that she was slowly stopping herself from creating anything at all. The joy of painting was being replaced by the iron bars of fear. The next morning, the air was crisp, and a bright yellow poster was stuck to the wooden board in the town square. A crowd had gathered around it. The Willow Creek Art Festival. Show your heart to the world. The poster explained that the festival was only 2 weeks away. The winner of the competition would receive a full scholarship to the Royal Academy of Art, the best school in the country. It was Maya's ultimate dream. She had pictures of the academy pinned to her wall. She dreamed of walking through its tall stone arches and learning from the masters. But as she read the words, "Show your heart," she felt the cold hand of fear tighten in her stomach. Her breath became shallow. To show my work to the world, she thought, her face turning pale. Everyone will see the messy lines. They will notice the spots where I struggled. They will see that I am not perfect. They will laugh and they will say I have no talent at all. She turned away, walking quickly to hide her face. But as she hurried around the corner, she bumped into an old man sitting on a weathered wooden bench. He was wearing a hat covered in colorful spots of paint, and his wrinkled hands were stained with deep blue and bright red ink. This was Mr. Elias. He was the most famous painter in the region, a man whose paintings hung in great galleries in the city. People called him a genius, and many said he was born with a brush in his hand. "You look like you just saw a ghost, young lady," Mr. Elias said. His voice was like dry leaves, but his eyes were bright and kind. I was looking at the festival poster," Maya admitted, looking at her shoes. "Ah, a wonderful opportunity," Elias said, leaning back. "The world needs more art. Are you entering your work?" "No," Maya said quickly, her voice a whisper. "I am not good enough. My work is never perfect. I make too many mistakes, and I don't want people to see them." Mr. Elias tilted his head, watching her closely. He looked at Maya's hands, noticing a tiny, forgotten smear of yellow paint near her fingernail. He smiled, a secret sort of smile. "Mistakes, you say? How very interesting. They are the most honest part of a painting. Listen, Maya, come to my studio tomorrow morning. I don't usually invite visitors, but I want to show you something that isn't in the galleries." Maya was shocked. The great Mr. Elias wanted to show her something? Her heart hammered with curiosity. She nodded slowly. "Okay, I will be there." The next day, Maya walked to the edge of the woods. Mr. Elias lived in a strange, beautiful house that looked like a giant gingerbread cottage, surrounded by wildflowers that grew in every direction. When she entered his studio, she expected to see golden frames, expensive silk curtains, and perfect masterpieces resting on velvet easels. She expected to see the perfection she worked so hard to find. Instead, the room was a glorious, colorful mess. There was dried paint on the floorboards, colorful handprints on the windows, and even a few splashes of purple on the ceiling. It looked like a place where a whirlwind of color had moved through. "Welcome!" Elias shouted from behind a large wooden table. He was holding a piece of buttered toast in one hand and a thick, messy brush in the other. "Mr. Elias," Maya said, stepping carefully over a puddle of blue water. "Where are your famous paintings, the ones the newspapers talk about, the ones that are perfect?" "Oh, those are boring," Elias laughed, waving his toast in the air. "They are finished. They are dead. A finished painting is just a memory. I want to show you my wall of growth." He led her to the very back of the long room. He reached up and pulled away a large, dusty gray curtain. Behind it, the wall was covered from floor to ceiling with hundreds of drawings and sketches. Maya gasped. She didn't see masterpieces. She saw terrible drawings. Some figures had 3 arms by mistake. Some faces looked like they were melting. The colors in some paintings looked like brown mud. Some were just angry scribbles where the artist had clearly given up. Did you do these?" Maya asked, her eyes wide. "Every single one," Elias said with a proud grin. "Look at this one over here. I tried to paint a majestic horse, but the legs are all wrong. It looks like a potato with 4 sticks stuck in it. We call it the potato horse. And this one, I tried to paint the deep blue ocean, but I used too much black and got frustrated. It looks like a burnt chocolate cake." Maya was completely confused. "But why do you keep them? If I made these, I would hide them or burn them in the fireplace. They are failures. They prove you didn't know what you were doing." Elias stepped closer, his expression becoming serious but very gentle. "Maya, you must understand. These are not failures. These are the steps of a ladder. You cannot walk to the top of a high mountain in one giant jump. It is impossible. You must take many small steps. Some steps are shaky. Some steps make you trip and fall on your knees. But every single step takes you higher than you were before." He pointed his brush toward a magnificent painting of a golden phoenix on the other side of the studio. It was glowing with light and power. "I could not paint that phoenix today if I had not painted the potato horse 20 years ago," Elias said. "The mistake is not the enemy of success, Maya. The mistake is the teacher of success. If you are not making mistakes, it means you are not trying anything new. And if you aren't trying anything new, you aren't growing. Maya looked back at the potato horse. For the first time, she didn't see a bad drawing. She saw a brave attempt. She saw an artist who was willing to be bad so that one day he could be great. But it hurts, Maya said softly. When I make a mistake, I feel a sharp pain in my heart. I feel like I am lying to myself when I call myself an artist. That is because you are trapped in a fixed mindset, Elias explained, sitting on a stool. You believe talent is like the color of your eyes, something you are born with and can never change. You think that if you fail, it is a sign that you have hit your limit, but that is a grand lie that keeps people small. He took a thick black marker and wrote a single word on a large blank piece of paper in giant, bold letters. Yet. This is the most powerful word in the English language, Elias said. Whenever that voice in your head says, I can't do this, or I'm not good at this, you must immediately add this word. I can't paint a perfect portrait. Yet. I don't know how to capture the light. Yet. Yet is a bridge. It means you are on a journey. It means your brain is like a muscle. It only grows when you push it against something heavy. Maya repeated the word under her breath. Yet. It felt like a small spark of light in the darkness of her fear. Now, Elias said, his eyes twinkling with mischief. He handed her a massive, heavy brush dripping with paint. I want you to do something very difficult. I want you to make a mess. I want you to make the ugliest, most imperfect painting in the world. On purpose. No thinking, no planning, just mess. Maya's heart raced. The idea of failing on purpose felt wrong, like breaking a law. On purpose? Yes. To defeat the monster of fear, you must walk up and shake its hand. Go on. Be messy. Be bad. Maya took the brush. Her hand was shaking. She dipped it into a jar of thick, bright purple paint. She closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and splashed it onto a clean white canvas. Splatch! She opened her eyes. It was a giant, messy, uneven purple blob, with drips running down the bottom. She waited for the familiar feeling of shame and the urge to cry. But as she looked at Elias, who was clapping and cheering, the shame didn't come. Instead, she felt a strange, bubbling sense of relief. Excellent! Elias shouted. Now look at it. Don't judge it. Just look. What can that blob become? Maya tilted her head. It looks like a giant grape that sat in the sun too long? Or a mysterious mountain in the twilight? Suggested Elias. Maya took a smaller brush. She didn't worry about being perfect. She added some jagged lines. She added some dark shadows. She experimented with a weird shade of orange, just to see what would happen. She wasn't working. She was playing. 2 hours later, she had a painting of a magical purple dragon hiding in a smoky cave. It wasn't perfect. One of the wings was bigger than the other, but it was full of energy. It felt alive. I did it, she whispered, amazed. No, Elias corrected her with a warm smile. You learned it, and you enjoyed the learning, didn't you? For the next 14 days, Maya went to Elias's studio every single afternoon. They didn't talk about masterpieces. They talked about experiments. They practiced the growth mindset every hour. One afternoon, Maya got frustrated because she was trying to draw a hand, but the fingers looked like a bunch of thick bananas. She wanted to rip the paper. "Stop," Elias said. "Look at those banana fingers. What did that mistake just teach you about where the thumb should go?" Maya looked closely. "It taught me that I started the thumb too high up." "Perfect," Elias said. "That mistake just gave you a piece of information you didn't have 10 minutes ago. It's a gift, not a curse." Maya started to realize that the struggle wasn't a sign that she was failing. It was the feeling of her brain stretching. It was like the burning feeling in her legs when she ran up a steep hill. It was the feeling of getting stronger. She stopped hiding her canvases in the attic. She even started to show her parents her mistakes during dinner. "Look at this one," she told her mother, pointing to a painting of the sun that looked a bit like a lopsided orange. "I tried to paint a realistic sun, but the paint was too wet and it ran down the page. But because of that, I learned how to create a really cool melting effect for the clouds. I'm going to use that technique later." Her mother was amazed. "Maya, you seem like a different person. You're glowing." "I am," Maya said. "I'm not afraid of the paper anymore. The paper is my friend, and we are learning together." But then the final day arrived, the day before the festival. Maya had to choose one single painting to show the whole town. She looked at her work. She had a very neat, very careful painting of a single red flower. It was safe. It had no big mistakes. It was pretty, but it was quiet and a bit stiff. Then she looked at a painting she had finished only yesterday. It was a large painting of a girl standing in the middle of a wild storm, holding a small glowing lantern. The girl's hair was messy, and her eyes were wide with a mix of fear and courage. To paint the wind, Maya had used thick, wild strokes and splashed gray and white paint across the canvas. There were drips she hadn't planned, and the girl's coat was a bit asymmetrical. It was imperfect by her old standards. Her old self, the perfectionist, whispered, "Take the flower. It is safe. No one can say the flower is wrong. The storm painting is too risky. People will see the mess." But her new self, the growth mindset Maya, stood tall. "The girl in the storm is me," she thought. "It shows my journey. It shows that I am not afraid to be messy. It shows that I am brave enough to try." Maya picked up the painting of the girl in the storm and walked out the door. The day of the Willow Creek Art Festival was a celebration of life. The sun was warm, and the town square was transformed into a sea of white tents. There was the sound of fiddles playing, the sweet smell of cinnamon popcorn, and hundreds of people laughing and talking. Maya stood by her wooden easel, her heart thumping, but her head held high. Her painting was covered by a clean white cloth. Next to her was a boy from her school named Thomas. His painting was already uncovered. It was a picture of a shiny red car that looked exactly like a photograph. It was incredibly precise, every reflection perfectly placed. For a moment, a small spark of the old fear returned to Maya's mind. His painting is so perfect, not a single drop is out of place. Then she remembered Elias's wall. She remembered the potato horse and the burnt cake ocean. She remembered that perfection is often just a mask that hides the soul of the artist. His painting is his journey, Maya told herself firmly, and this is mine. I am proud of every messy stroke because I learned something from every one of them. The mayor, a tall man in a bright blue suit, walked onto the stage.
"Welcome, citizens. Today we celebrate the heart and soul of Willow Creek. Artists, it is time. Uncover your work." Maya reached out and pulled the cloth away. A group of people walked by. They were looking at all the paintings. They stopped in front of Maya's Girl in the Storm. They stayed silent for a very long time. Maya found herself holding her breath, waiting for the laughter. "Look at the movement in the wind," a woman finally whispered. "You can almost feel the cold rain on your face. It's so brave. It feels like she's fighting for something important." "The colors are so bold and raw," an older man added, leaning in close. "It's not like the other paintings that try to be pretty. This one tells a story. It feels real." Mr. Elias appeared in the crowd, wearing a clean suit, but with a tiny smudge of green paint still on his ear. He didn't say a word. He just caught Maya's eye and gave her a slow, proud wink. At the end of the long day, the judges stood on the stage to announce the winners. Maya did not win the first prize. The scholarship to the Royal Academy went to Thomas and his perfect red car. For a split second, Maya felt a sharp sting of disappointment. But then something miraculous happened. She didn't feel like a failure. She didn't want to hide. She didn't feel the need to cry. She walked over to Thomas. "Congratulations," she said with a genuine smile. "Your technique is incredible. The way you painted those reflections on the metal, I would love to learn how you did that." Thomas looked shocked. Most artists were jealous of him. "Really? Thank you. To be honest, I was terrified. I struggled with the wheels for 3 months. I have a whole box of ruined drawings of wheels at home because I couldn't get the circle right." Maya laughed, a bright, clear sound. "I have a whole attic of ruined things. Maybe we can show each other our mistakes sometime?" Thomas smiled back, looking relieved. "I'd like that." As the sun began to set, turning the sky into the peach orange Maya loved so much, she began packing up her brushes. A young girl, no more than 6 or 7 years old, walked up to her easel. The girl was wearing a dress with grass stains on the knees and was holding a crumpled piece of paper with a messy crayon drawing of a cat. "I like your painting," the little girl said, her voice shy. "I want to be an artist too, but my teacher says I'm messy. I think I'm just bad at it. I always mess up the lines." Maya knelt down on the grass so she was at the girl's eye level. She took the girl's drawing and looked at it with great care. It was a cat with 5 legs and a tail that looked like a lightning bolt. It was colored with a bright, beautiful purple. "Do you know a secret?" Maya asked, leaning in close. The girl shook her head, her eyes wide. "There is no such thing as being bad at art," Maya said. "There is only learning art. Every time you mess up a line, your brain is learning where the line should go. Your purple cat is wonderful because it means you are brave enough to try a new color. Do you like the color purple?" "Yes," the girl said, looking at her drawing. "But my friend said the sun is supposed to be yellow and cats are supposed to be brown." "Who says?" Maya smiled. "In your world, the sun can be purple and cats can have lightning tails. If you make a mark on the paper that you don't like, don't throw it away. That's a waste of a good lesson. Instead, ask yourself, what can I turn this into?" The girl's eyes brightened with a new idea. "Like, I could turn a big smudge into a fluffy cloud?" "Exactly. And remember this magic word," Maya said. "Whenever you feel like you can't do something, just say, 'I can't do it yet.'" "Yet," the girl repeated, testing the word on her tongue. She smiled, hugged her drawing to her chest, and skipped away to find her parents. Maya watched her go and realized that she had won a prize far more valuable than a scholarship or a trophy. She had won her freedom. She was no longer a prisoner of the word perfection. She was a traveler on the road of yet. Years passed, like colors blending on a canvas. Maya did go to art school eventually. She didn't get in the first time she applied. Her portfolio was too experimental for the judges that year. In the past, that rejection would have crushed her, but Maya looked at the letter, took a deep breath, and said, "I'm not ready for this school yet." She spent the next year traveling, painting the wind, the rain, and the ugly things that other people ignored. She filled hundreds of sketchbooks with mistakes, messy notes, and potato horses. When she applied again, her work was so full of life and soul that they accepted her with a full honors scholarship. She became a famous artist, known for her emotional and living style. But she never bought gold frames for her work, and she never tried to hide her process. She kept her studio messy, a place where mistakes were welcomed like old friends. And in the back of her famous gallery in the city, there was a special room that was always open to the public. Above the heavy oak door, a simple sign said, "The Room of Growth." Inside, she didn't display her famous paintings. Instead, she displayed her first potato horse, her burnt cake ocean, and the old painting of the cat with the black drop on its nose. Whenever a young student came to her, crying because they had failed an exam or ruined a canvas, Maya would take them by the hand and lead them into that room. She would show them the smudges and the errors. She would show them that every masterpiece is not built on talent alone, but on a vast foundation of beautiful, necessary mistakes. Because Maya knew the greatest truth of all. To live a life full of color, you must be brave enough to pick up the brush, even when your hand shakes.
And to be a true success, you must never, ever be afraid to fail. For in every failure, there is a seed of the greatness that is to come. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment. It really helps the channel. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.